maybe, no, you're started already.
Yeah, no problem. We can continue by talking with them. That will also fruitful.
Okay.
Yeah, that is not a problem. Yeah.
Okay. Now.
Yeah. So I'm making you host, sir.
Okay. Yeah, because I have to share the screen.
Yeah. So Shivam Saab, I have made you co-host. If anybody is coming, please just give the entry to.
Okay, no problem. Okay, sir.
Yeah.
So now you guys can. Okay, sir. Yeah, you can continue a little bit discussion, and after that, once everybody is there,
Shivam, you said you are working with Adani Solar.
Yes, sir.
Acha, as what? What is your role?
Sir, I am a senior engineer in production department.
Okay, very good. So today's topic will be very useful to you.
Yes, sir.
In production.
TQM, yes, sir.
Yeah. And Subir, you are in the hospital, but of course.
Sir, I am from Narayana Health.
Narayana Health, of course.
Narayana Health, and I am in operation manager.
Oh, great, good. So, see, this affects everything. Rather, this topic will be useful for anybody in more so in operations. Yes, definitely.
Yes.
And general management. So, what is quality? That is what we are going to be discussing today. Okay, so shall we wait for a couple of more minutes before, because the usual I can continue to talking. Somebody has come here. Admit Sashi Prasad. Yeah. Sashi Prasad is connecting. Yes, I think I will start instead of waiting, because it's a very vast subject, and usually I have even taken this as a 3-credit course. That means 3 credit is mostly usually even 48 hours, 36 to 48 hours, depending upon the university. And whereas we are trying to combine it in 2 hours time. So let us not waste the time on this. So the subject of discussion today is total quality management. The quality movement in the world, and especially in India, actually, I would say gained traction only by the middle of 1990s. You see, even the ISO 9000, which gained prominence in India, was around 94 onwards. In the world, of course, the revolution started much earlier, and the earliest, if you can really talk about, was in Japan, because they, after the war, they consciously built up their manufacturing, and one of the things they realized was that unless you have a good quality product, in fact, today we talk about China having, not good quality. This was the same story when it came to Japan in the 1960s. The Japanese quality was considered to be shoddy compared to the American and the European quality, especially German quality. But they went ahead and worked on their quality with the help of some of the quality gurus, which we will be talking about a little later, briefly, of course. And so in the 80s, this was the problem with quality in most places, and especially in India. What is good quality? Now, can I take since 3 of you are there, if you can just, each of you can say, what do you understand by good quality? Shivam, you can unmute, talk, and then mute again. Yeah, yeah, Shivam.
So I think according to me, the quality is if I am giving someone to if someone's the customer of me, the customer satisfaction is for me is the quality. What
Customers,
customer needs.
customer needs. Okay,
Yes, sir.
so you are talking about customer needs. Okay, Subir. Yeah, you can mute Shivam. Yeah, because otherwise we'll forget. Yeah, Subir.
Sir, in hospitality, quality is different. Here are some biomedical waste, फिर patients care. That is the quality.
Great, good, good. So you patient care, you said is quality, right? Very good, very
Yes,
good,
sir.
very good. Yeah, you can mute now. And Shashi Prasad, what do you understand by?
Sir, quality means in healthcare facility, quality means matlab best service, patient satisfaction. Uh, if patient will satisfied from our service, this means we are providing good quality.
Very good, very good. So service and satisfaction is what you talked about. Yeah, you can mute Shashi Prasad now. Yeah. There are many aspects to quality, but the main centered focus, I would say, would be the customer. See, ultimately, it is a customer for which, due to which we are here in business or service. And without the customer, a satisfied customer, we do not have a business. So the focus and rather the unwavering focus is on the customer as one of the quality. My the book I refer, the person I refer, Mr. Dale Besterfield, the very opening sentence itself talks about the unwavering focus on the customer. During the movement, many people came up with many ideas, many tools and techniques, and what constitutes quality in products and services. So there are basically, in the process, typically there were what we call as the 7 QC tools, which was the older tools and techniques in production, and then there is a 7 management tools. These kind of tools and tools. Apart from that, there are many. Six Sigma is one of the tools. There are many words which you will hear. In fact, in quality, there are many words. And in fact, during the initial stages of this quality movement in the late 80s and the early 90s, I myself used to get very confused and then start wondering what really it is. It is like that 5 blind men and the elephant. The elephant is the total thing, and then each one perceives it differently. It takes quite some time for you to understand totally that this is what exactly would result in a total quality. Change roles of middle managers and supervisors from one of control and facilitation of the process of building quality. See, if you remember, one of the earliest this thing, when we talked about quality, we used to talk about quality control. See, control obviously means that something, either the process is controlled or the end result is controlled or inspected. Those definitions are given way into building up the quality in the processes itself, right across the whole spectrum of realizing the product to the customer and delivering to the customer. Earlier this is what I have myself thought when we started the quality movement, that it is uneconomical to make quality improvements since it brings down productivity, increases cost and investment. in the sense that, even today when I ask somebody, why are you not having a simple ISO 9000 certification? Is it the first thing which comes out, the person comes out and says, sir, it means I have to invest money. Now, of course, you need some equipment and other things to measure, but then that is a part of the process. Productivity initially will come down because people have to get used to the kind of newer methodologies which you need to adopt for bringing in process quality. That is the quality in each of the processes. We'll see that as we go by, but the end result which we have seen is that there is definitely will be when everybody is in sync, like in an orchestra. So there is no besura. Everybody is in tune and then works towards the common goal. And then the end result is that there is a minimum wastage. Production takes place in the least possible time. And the end result is almost like something like a zero defect. It is possible, but it takes a long time and a concerted effort from everybody, right from the top management to the person lower down. So today we know that having done this, as I said, from 1994 onwards, from the earlier introduction of ISO 9000 and many other interventions in India, we've seen that productivity goes up and cost comes down as quality goes up. This fact is known, but only to a selected few. Why I'm saying the selected few is that people who accept that we can change. See, I used to mass produce certain electronic components, which I started in 1983. And it was an accepted norm that a 20% wastage, because electronic components work on the on yield. What is the yield of the end product? It was 20% was accepted, actually a norm. And I was struggling a lot and then got it down to 7% by certain means. Then I said, why not? I don't think this is what is the norm in the world. So we brought in a lot more interventions and training and ISO and everything. And you won't believe it. Finally, when it came, it was less than 1%. It took many years, but then everybody understood right from thing. And the commitment came from, as a top management, from myself. We started with a 3-year intervention program by Indian Statistical Institute and then ISO consultant and many things. And of course, at that time, in the early 90s, everybody was doing it, especially good enlightened management. You can call Mahindras, you can call TBS Group. There are many, the Tatas themselves, there are many of the enlightened managements used to, even in the hospital segment, I'm sure Narayan Hridayalaya and in fact, a smaller hospital, which I've seen, who proudly used to exhibit that first ISO 9000 hospital in Mysore. Of course, he was from UK, so he knew what was the benefits of following systems. Right. It is nothing but doing a systematic work and ensuring that you deliver quality at each and every step of the process of the delivery of product or services. We'll see a couple of definitions of quality before we go, because we should understand quality since we'll be talking this word right through. The British standards, of course, one of the early, this one used to call quality is the totality of features and characteristics of a product or service or process, which bear on its ability to satisfy a given need from the customer's point of view. Shivam, you talked about the need of the customer, So there is one small I would say a small deviation on that word need. See, need is sometimes felt or need can be implied. You see, many times when we give a product or a service, people do not know. Yes, this also would is very good. I can. This would have been good. So there is the slight expansion of that need is both a felt need and an implied need. The ISO 9000 itself talks about quality is a degree to which a set of inherent characteristics fulfills requirements. A need or expectation that is stated generally implied is what he would, if you brainstorm with him, he would say, yes, I would like this, I would like that, yes, something more, all that. But he is not able to specify. And obligatory comes from the purpose, from the point of a person who is giving the product or a service. It is like even in a healthcare setup, there are many things which are obligatory, right? In fact, like today morning, we had gone for getting an IV for my wife at the hospital. And then, see, after you remove everything, it is the cleaning up of the place from where the IV has been given, and then the instructions to be given to her, how to handle the injection place and what cares has to be taken. That is an obligatory process. It is not that saying that the customer may be coming in repeatedly, but it is for the healthcare personnel to ensure that all the instructions are given and followed, right? So it is the need or expectation is stated, implied, or even obligatory. Then comes the another definition could be the ability of a product or a service to consistently meet or exceed customer expectation. See, there are two words are extremely important here. One is consistent. Consistent means that quality does not mean best. See, when you talk about, let's say, cars, you have Maruti, of course, our other friend is not here. Maruti, let's say Swift, but you also have a Benz E-Class or a BMW, or the ultimate you can call about a Lamborghini or a Rolls-Royce. Now, you can say that the Rolls-Royce is the best car in the world. Yes, it is the best car in the world, but for its price and for the type of customer he wants. But people, we would, here with a upper middle class person who buys a car would rather will go for either, let's say, a Maruti. So within the Maruti, whenever you buy a vehicle, whether you have purchased now or a little later, or you are somebody else from your own organization has purchased, the quality should be consistent. If there is some things which are not good in your vehicle, but whereas your colleague or somebody who has bought it is better, then that does not constitute consistency. We expect consistency in a product. So even in consumer products which we have, let us say you go to a McDonald's and have a burger. Why some of these brands have become very popular? Because they give consistent quality irrespective of the place from which they serve. Whether it is a McDonald's in anywhere in India or a McDonald's in some other country or wherever it is, the products appeal the way it is presented, it is tastes, everything is consistent. One of the problems in India is that once you do not bring consistency, see, it is like even you can make it in regular items also. It is like I don't know if you have heard of certain idli kind of thing. Idli is a food we especially most popular in South, but then it is also popular in the North now. Many people who serve. The consistency of quality and what constitute a good idli has to be clearly understood, and the person who is offering it must have a consistency in not only the composition, the way it is presented, the softness of it, and all its features which go into it. So quality means consistency. That is very, very important in anything what you do. It is consistent. And of course, it has to meet or exceed customer expectations, because most of the time the customer does not know what to expect also sometimes, out of thing. Next comes the definition of total quality management. Now we understood quality. Now we have added a word called total. Total implies, in this case, encompassing every aspect of the product realization or a service realization, including the supply chain from where the inputs to the products are available, includes all the stakeholders who are there delivering that product, right from the top management down to the lowest person, I won't say the lowest, but the service providers within the organization, and all the processes from the input to the output. So this in totality, all the services, all the inputs which go into making the product must deliver quality. Management, obviously, because earlier we used to say that we used to have a word called quality control. Now that control was then later on became quality assurance, and we have removed that assurance also. Now it is quality management. Now, management comes from a process which is clearly thought of, designed, delivered, checked, and repeated. So that is why we need a total quality management for products and services. Now, the moment you talk about quality, what comes to mind is some of the quality gurus, which some names have been mentioned here, and they were one of the earlier people who talked about quality, especially William Edwards Deming, usually called Edward Deming. Edward Deming was working in Westinghouse in US when he talked about his 14 principles of quality. We will briefly get into it in the next slide. And also the Deming Cycle, which is the most famous one. In fact, today, anybody and everybody who talks about quality follows this Deming Cycle. It's also called the Shewhart Cycle, in one of his contemporaries, but more so Deming being the first one to have come up with it. And that is also the basis for even things like ISO 9000. Then we have Joseph Juran, Philip Crosby, Koro Ishikawa. If you see, the next three names are Japanese. See, Japanese learned from the Americans and bet the Americans in their own game. The Japanese quality became extremely good once they started following, and it was they invited Deming and Duran to talk to. Initially, the very first meeting, as the story goes, was between the top 10 industrialists of Japan, including Mitsubishi, Marubeni. There are 10 top industrialists like Adani. Right here, we talk about Adani, and of course, we in India we denigrate our own top industrialists, but whereas in Japan they hold them very high, because Japanese also believe in lifetime employment, and they view their industrialists as in a very this thing, both the government as well as the people. So they invited Deming and Juran and made them to understand what exactly is quality and how do we build in quality. This I'm talking in the 60s, and as you all know, Japan was just coming out of the World War, when after the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, they were in total shambles. So within about 10 years, they got up on their feet, and from early 60s onwards started in their journey of quality. So Kuaro Ishikawa, Shigeo Shingo, Genichi Taguchi, these are some of the names which come across. Incidentally, Genichi Taguchi I have personally met and discussed a lot of things during my own quality movement, when in my company. One of the Deming's contributions are new perceptions to the quality management. As I told you, the Plan, Do, Check Act, or the PDCA, just keep that in mind always. The moment you say PDCA, what it means, and we'll get into it a little later for you to understand. His 14-point agenda for quality improvement. This is more like a commandment, like we have the 10 commandments, like that, He had given 14 points, which is a must at that time, at least, for improving quality. Considered to be the father of Japanese quality management systems. In fact, being an American, working in an American company, he is considered the guru of management by the Japanese. And today, the Deming Prize, if you have heard of Deming Prize, is one of the highest quality awards which Japan institutes every year, and it is named after Deming and not after any of their own scientists. The 14 principles of Deming briefly are these: create and publish the aims and purposes of the organization. To translate it, we can say that, does the organization have a clear vision, mission? In fact, one of the books which normally I refer is the Dale Besterfield. Dale Besterfield talks extensively about this vision and mission. And also I add one more thing, which is called the core values of an organization. In fact, I have developed this for many organizations, including mine. A clear vision, a clear mission, and the core values underlying your own operations will make sure that your own, the top management and the middle and all the other people working with the organization follow that clearly. So you must have that. Learn the new philosophy. That is what we said, that quality improves productivity, quality improves yield, quality improves reduces the time required for management. So that at that time it was very important. Understand the purpose of inspection. It is not that inspection during thing is not necessary. The inspection is to improve the process continuously. Stop awarding business based on price alone. Of course, unfortunately, in India, we still have L1, L2, L3, that kind of thing. But at least in the private sector and wherever it's possible, that price should not be the only consideration on which you buy, especially your raw materials and many other things which you happen. Improve constantly and forever the system. That is what is also called as Kaizen in by the Japanese, continual improvement. Institute training. Training is a very important part at continuously in an organization. Unless it is like understand the training needs and then keep providing training to at the various levels in different people in the organization. Teach and institute leadership. Management and leadership are two different things. It is you produce leaders within the organization, automatically a lot of things will go up. Drive out fear, create trust, and create a climate of innovation. Now, I'm sure that we all talk about innovation today, and that can happen only in a where your employees trust you and then they work without fear. Optimize the efforts of teams, groups, and staff areas. No work is done by a person alone. There is always a process before, and then there is a process after. And in today's service industry, especially, teamwork is very, very important. What you have done in this shift, again, by the time it goes to the next, somebody else is going to handle. Some of the innovative practices, you work as a group. In fact, Subir, I can tell you, long back I was in Apollo, where my son had a dengue. 5 days I was there. I normally observe systems. This was quite some time back, 15 years back. I appreciated very well the kind of systems they have. I'm sure, of course, Narayana Hridayalaya must also be following all that. But at that time, I'm saying 15, 20 years back, when things were just about quality thing, the systems were amazing, how they group together when the shift changes. They discuss the individual cases in front of the whole group. It's not just that one person. You can say that it's a waste of time, but it is that ensures that, even if a nurse for some reason is not absent even for a minute and somebody else is there, they can take over. So similarly in software, similarly in manufacturing, everywhere, team, groups, and staff working, optimizing them is very important. Eliminate exhortations from the workforce. It is like, and the third one is numerical quotas and management by objectives. These don't work. Although we still hear of these words like MBO and management by objectives, but these things really don't work. Remove barriers that rob people of pride and workmanship. Encourage education and self-improvement. Yes, this is extremely important unless they continuously keep educating themselves. Not by degree alone, but by the skills and upgrading of skills within their own work. This is very important. Take action to accomplish the transformation. All these are not just buzzwords, but then you will have to walk the talk and make sure that it is followed. Juran, this is Joseph Juran, and he had at that time came up with quality planning, quality control, and quality improvement as a triangle kind of a thing, which he used to talk about. The trilogy, and this is a continuous process. It is not that you did once and finish. So once you have achieved that, go to the next level of quality. See, the quality has something, unless you come to the something called perfect or zero defect, you keep continuing the effort, and then even to maintain it, you'll have to continuously keep working on it. Philip Crosby talked about quality is the result of carefully constructed cultural environment. It has to be the fabric of the organization and not part of the fabric. That means it is total. As I said, it should be total. And he called about a couple of absolutes in which he says that definition of quality is conformance to standards. The system of quality is prevention, not inspection. The performance standard is zero defects, because he was the one who introduced the concept of zero defect. The measurement of quality is a price for non-conformance. What you don't measure, you don't improve. What you don't measure gets hidden and then manifests itself into a bad quality at a later stage, when probably you'll have to junk the whole product. Fifth absolute is there is no such thing as a quality problem. Quality problems are created by non-conformance and to standards and non-conformance to systems. So that is what happens. The other quality gurus, we talk about Ishikawa, the famous cause and effect diagram. This is one of the 7 QC tools, or the fishbone diagram. They call it fishbone because in Japan they eat a lot of fish. I think if you know. So when you remove the flesh of the fish, there is a head and then there is a main stalk, and then the bones look like the kind of diagram which Ishikawa named as it. Whereas the head of the fish is the effect, and the causes are the kind of different branches around that. So this is why it is called as a cause and effect diagram. And of course, he came to an extension of that is cause and effect diagram with action card. We use this extensively, very extensively, and I'm sure Shivam, I do not know whether you practice this, in your organization. Anytime there is a problem, one of the first things you do is to do a cause and effect diagram. So that will help you to understand whether the problem is from the man. Usually we never assign problems to people. Problems can happen from materials, from machines, from methods, from environment, right? And the systems itself, which is there. So you need to understand, and to each one of these branches, you elaborate further and go up to the last point from where you can identify. Of course, from cause and effect diagram, then you do a Pareto analysis, and then from that you shortlist what could be the possible reasons for the problems to occur and things like that. So at this, Shigeo Shingo is his main contributions were these two. Pokayoke. Pokayoke means foolproofing, basically. Why is it foolproofing? Because we know that take an ordinary USB. You take an ordinary USB. What you see in the USB is that there is a one side of the USB. It is blanked with something, and then there is another part. The opposite end on the other side is the same way. You cannot put it ulta. See, earlier, if you remember, it used to happen even when you're connecting any DC device. You put reverse polarity, the whole thing blows. Then they came up with reverse polarity protection by putting some series diodes. Now, you cannot say that you be very careful. This is one thing which is very important. Even the best of people, when there are times when they will make mistakes. So the process has to inbuilt the foolproofing, and that is the only way to improve quality. This can be right from the design, but and including in process, right? It is like even when you are operating a machine which is a hazardous machine, unless you use both the legs and both the hands, the machine will not operate. That is foolproofing. So that you prevent an accident to take place. In whatever you do and design and or processes, you need to ensure that how do you foolproof the process. The other one which he came up with is called the SMED, or single minute exchange of dies. We have practiced it extensively in our own thing. How do you ensure that, see, basically products are mass produced, but when there are many products which are mass produced, there are a lot of variations which you need to produce within a given shift or a given period of time. When you need those variations, you need to set up machines. You must have heard of setup time in machines. Setup time in the processes, setup time. You reduce it to as low as possible by standardizing many of the tools and fixtures and the way it is changed. The D stands for dice, tools, all that which comes in the process. So single minute exchange of dice is what Shigeo Shingo's contribution along and Pokayoke was. Genichi Taguchi, two main things was one is a loss function. It is more like a philosophy in the sense that he was telling that suppose there is a accident which happens on a road due to a bad quality of, let us say, a nut or bolt in your vehicle, because of which it gave way and you met up with an accident. Okay, let us say that it's a far-fetched thing. That nut or bolt, which should have been reliable and not, or rather tightened properly, many of these things, could have prevented that accident. And due to that accident, the person who was in that accident, life was lost, or he was disabled, and what is the cost of that through the lifetime. You must have also heard of that saying in the biblical story, which says, for a want of a nail, a kingdom was lost. Right. So this is what he meant by that loss function. And he had a very rigorous and extensive way of calculating the loss due to any of this, kind of failures. That was one of his contribution. And design of experiments. This is a very, very powerful tool, and we have ourselves used in one of the processes. He used to be a visiting faculty at the Indian Statistical Institute, if you have heard of, Indian Statistical Institute was first came up in the, I think in the 40s or 50s in Calcutta. And of course, they have offices across India. And it was also used for the planning commission, manual office, and people like that. They were the initial people who tried to establish quality using statistical process controls. In fact, we had a 3-year contract with Indian Statistical Institute. And it is in that connection, Genichi Taguchi had visited Mysore. In fact, I have had a dinner with him along with the thing. And it's a great man, this design of experiments is a fantastic tool. In fact, in one of our processes, it took about almost 3 months to establish the parameters. You establish the parameters because otherwise what happens, you're doing only in trial and error method. By the DOE method, you are able to do it systematically to ensure that you have the best parameters for getting that thing. This is something which can follow in healthcare. It can follow in any of the things. Even in healthcare, there are so many things you are toggling with various parameters to get the right result. So if you use DOE, it becomes much easier and you can do it faster and establish that process for it to be continued. Now we will come to the next topic here on quality is the dimensions of quality. One is for the products and another for services. Since we have a combination of both with us. Garvin is one of the who propounded these things. Of course, these are no-brainers, but the fact that you should know. For a product, performance is very important. Customer expects a certain level of performance from the product. When it has to work, it has to work. That is very important, right? Features provide additional attributes to enhance. You can take the simple example of today, even a smartwatch or a smartphone. Today you get a smartwatch for something like even 1,500, 2,000 rupees. Even it's cheaper than even some of the regular watches. But then, what is the first thing performance you want? You want time, right? When I look at it, I must know the time. That is very important. Okay, apart from the time, invariably we get confused what day it is today. what is the date today and what is the day. So date and time should be given, and time should be given. What are the other things it can provide? Okay, in a smartwatch, we say that, yes, how many steps have I done today? I would like to know. What is my stress level? Today, of course, is very important. What is my SpO2 level? Right, as I am there. So like this, we keep on adding features. So if you find that initially the products, like if you've seen the old mobiles, when I first bought my mobile in 1994, was the first mobile I bought when mobile came to India. It was a bulky, big thing, huge thing with Nokia device, which had only the thing. Then, of course, the many other business phones came in and all that, kind of. Of course, today you have very high-end phones with just a small thing, which everybody carries, So the features will keep on increasing. Features provide additional attributes for enhancing the quality. Third dimension is very important, is reliability. It has to work when it has to work. It is like, let us say, a fire alarm. You can imagine the amount of reliability you need in a fire alarm. When should a fire alarm work? When there is fire. Imagine if the fire alarm is not reliable and it for days together, months together, years together, there may not be a fire and you will not know. But when there is a fire, it has to work. Correct? So obviously a product like the fire alarm, which is put in most of the public places, that should work. That has to be reliable. Denotes the expectation that the product performs satisfactorily for a period of time, for its entire period of time, the life cycle, you can say. Conformance, meeting the specifications and standards of design. Durability, how long does the product last? That is the life cycle of the product before it requires a replacement. Serviceability, the ease with which the product is serviced. This is very important because today we buy product. There are many things we buy, especially some of these Chinese and other things where there is no service backup for the product. And also to reach a small place, you need to open up the entire sub-assemblies. So that should not be the case. There should be an ease of serviceability in that. Of course, coming to the healthcare example, it's like recently I had a case when gallstones, Subir, for gallbladder removal, you need to push the liver a bit before, when you are laparoscopic surgery, right?
Right.
But God has made it in such a way that the liver is pliable easily, But in one particular case, it so happened that the liver was very rigid. There is a fatty liver, and we had to abort laparoscopic surgery, even after going inside. So that is, of course, God's design. But in a normal case, it would have worked. But then in such abnormal cases, it didn't work. So serviceability, it is like in a car when you have to reach out to a particular part, when suddenly it stopped working. You need to have access to that part easily without having to dismantle the entire engine and other things. Aesthetics, customers definitely value aesthetics, without which it has to have an appeal rather. Thing. Safety is the most important thing. Safety of usage, safety assurance that to the customer that there is no hazard with the product. And there are many other perceptions. Customers may also have a host of subjective perceptions, such as brand name, image, impact of advertising on his assessment of quality, etc. In the dimensions of quality for service, Of course, you can add many some more which may be specific to your type of service, but by and large, convenience, availability. See, convenience, because a service means there is a service delivery. A hospital has to be located centrally and accessible to the people who want to visit the hospital, right? You have branches of the hospital in different places. You may have many things. Similarly, for the hotel, the hospitality industry, today, of course, the food delivery, many things are thing. Convenience, reliability, like the Domino's thing, 30 minutes or, guaranteed delivery, that kind of reliability. Responsiveness, how soon you respond. Today with access to technology, the moment you order, you get an acknowledgement saying that, and then they say it will take 18 minutes, 15 minutes, then the person is on the way. They give you a route map of the person also who is on the way, so that is the kind of responsiveness kind of thing. Time, was there unnecessary waiting or time wastage for the service provided? This is very important in hospitals, especially. Are you being attended to? In fact, many times it happens that you are kept in waiting, and nobody tells you what is happening. Of course, there 24/7 you have shortage of staff, shortage of beds, shortage of equipment, right? The same thing moving. But is there somebody attending to that? Usually in some of their hospitals, they'll be having a person who coordinates all these activities and make sure that you are kept informed as what is going to happen next. That is responsiveness. Time, that is most important. Assurance that there is a competent person who is going to handle your problem, right? It's sometimes I think, I don't know whether you have seen this movie called Doogie Howser, Subir. Doogie Howser is a kind of a serial where that guy looks like a boy, that he's a doctor, he's an MD, a very specialized guy. And he looks like a boy, and most of the people say that, is he going to attend? This is the person who is going to operate on me and things like that. But the fact is that, yes, he's a very competent person. That you have to ensure that competence comes from many things, your own personal way of handling things, how you assure, etc. In fact, one of the doctors whom I know is excellent at it, the way he will explain to you, assure you that, and even before that he has already given the prick or whatever, said to do that. And there are many people who are good at that. Courtesy, extremely important, because it's a person to person in most of the service deliveries. Tangibles, clean facility, personal neatness of the personnel, light, temperature, spacious. Some of the corporate hospitals, of course, today, if you see, they're very well. They're as good as 5-star hotels, or better than that in many cases, right? Then consistency. The consistency of delivery is very, very important. And I've seen that, of course, in Columbia Asia, of course, now taken over by Manipal, Apollo, Fortis, many of these big hospitals. Narayan Hridayalaya, again, we have a Narayan Hridayalaya set up here in Mysore. Of course, started from Bangalore, of course. Devi Shetty, correct, Subir?
Yes.
Yeah. Devi Shetty is also our guru in IIM Bangalore. Is the chairman of IIM, the board of IIM Bangalore. So he's a great person, and that's the kind of thing which you expect, that gives you an assurance of quality. Alternative definitions of quality from the point of view of firm and from the point of view of customer. Minimize conformance to specification is what the basic definition of quality, and fulfill the customer's needs, fitness for use, minimize loss to society. There are many definitions which are there, and we went through some of them earlier. Now, earlier we talked about total quality management. You see, this is a definition by ISO on the TQM, and this is very important to understand each and every word which we mention here. TQM is a management approach for an organization. That is, the approach is driven by the top management, centered on quality, based on the participation of all its members, and aiming at long-term success through customer satisfaction and benefits to all members of the organization and society. See the words which are used here. It's a management approach for an organization. So obviously this cannot be driven, TQM cannot be driven from the middle level manager. Like tomorrow, Shivam, you say that I want to do TQM in my organization. You cannot. Adani has to, right? Adani has to, the Gautam Adani, right? Your super boss. He has to say that, yes, like Devi Shetty has to say that this is what we are going to follow. Unfortunately, today, all top managements are very much aware, and they are, if you see that this is the approach which is there. At least from the 90s, late 90s, I've seen Indian management is a lot more responsive to these things, and they have realized the importance. Centered on quality, everything, all actions, whatever you do is centered on quality, based on the participation of all its members. Whatever the process involves many people. In fact, there is one of the maxims of quality is that the next process is the customer. I'll come to that a little later. That is very important to understand that every process, the next process is the customer. Like, anyway, there are many examples, we'll come to it. And aimed at the long-term success. You cannot derive short-term or a day-to-day satisfaction from what you do. It has to ensure that it has to be ongoing, and it is for a long term through customer satisfaction. Here we have the concept of what is called an external customer and an internal customer. External customer is the one who buys your product and who uses your product. Of course, these two can be different also. A person buying the product and a person using the product can be different. Like a hospital buys certain drugs and then uses it, or buys some equipment, but uses those equipment on the ultimate customer. So the customer is different, has many connotations. When it comes to the internal customer, it is that the next process to which, suppose there is a sub-assembly in let us say, a vehicle. Now this sub-assembly is going into the main assembly. Then the main assembly is the internal customer for the sub-assembly. So there are infinite number of internal customers in a process like automobile manufacturing. Infinite in this, of course, definitely there is finite, but I'm saying that many. Each process, the next process is the customer. Success through customer satisfaction, internal and external, and benefits to all members of the organization. So the benefit will be right from top to bottom, and to all the stakeholders. When you say society, it means all the stakeholders. The society can mean right from the government, it can mean your service providers to your organization, it can be the vendors to your organization, and on the other side, again, all your distributors and retailers, customers, etc. So this is a very comprehensive definition of quality. There are, I will take this and give you a break, because my promise was to give you a break after 1 hour. I also need one, but I'll finish this before, and then we'll take the break. The concepts of TQM, as I said, my guru is Dale Westerfield. I've gone through that book. I've studied this. I've used the principles. I have taught from that book. for in many different classes, and these 6 principles are something which of course Dale Bestival is again from the US, has been very comprehensive, just like Stephen Covey for the in his field. Dale Bestival is the guru in TQM. A committed and involved management to provide long-term, top-to-bottom organizational support. This is extremely important for TQM. See the words committed, involved management. See, generally what happens is if a management is not committed, you go, people are used to doing shortcuts, See, we know that, of course, and we Indians are sometimes very good at it, Chalta hai, no, this time you just overlook, that kind of thing. Now, that should not be the case, that should not be the case right from the top management or to middle management to the person working on the shop floor. It has to be, you should be committed to quality. There is no, that's a principle which you need to be committed and ensure that it is committed right through from top to bottom. A committed and involved management to provide long-term, top to bottom organizational support. That can happen when there is a commitment right at the top. An unwavering focus on the customer, both internally and externally. I explained to you earlier about the concept of internal customer and the external customer. External customer is the one who buys or consumes or enjoys your product. Whereas an internal customer is, let us say that in the solar panel, which you are doing, okay, in Shivam, there is a final finished product, but it starts from a particular process and then gradually it builds up and then there is an assembly and then the final product is ready. Suppose you are to make a flow chart of this process right from the start to finish. Every block in the flow process chart, the next block is the customer. Now the end quality will be only good as long as every one of them treats the other person as a customer. That is the concept of the internal customer. Effective involvement and utilization of the entire workforce. Obviously, even if there is one person who is not committed, either he should be trained or given an alternate work if he's not, the person is not good in that particular work. So that is very important. Continuous improvement of the business and production processes. See, there is no end to being perfect. But by the time then things would have changed, and it's a continuous process, not only of the production processes, but also of the business processes. You establish business process and keep changing it according to the needs of the customer. Treating suppliers as partners. This is one thing I've seen in Japan, basically. See, basically what happens is your product is only as good as the materials, the machines, the consumables supplied to you, especially in the hospital setup, right? The same product or the same drug may be produced by many people, but still the quality may be different. How do you say the quality is different? Because if the composition is the same, what constitutes quality? I do not know. The effectiveness of the drug, the dispersion of the drug, the what do you call a half-life or something of the drug, and the way it is to be administered, many things matter. In fact, I know of a patient who said that, I take this drug and then next day it just comes out as a whole. That means there has been no absorption of the drug. Something is wrong in the process there. So unless the Your suppliers deliver to you the materials, consumables, machinery, equipment, accessories, whatever you call it, each of them, and they trust you, you trust them, and they do the thorough quality check before sending to you. Only then this will work. So you have to be having a symbiotic relationship with your suppliers. I have followed this myself, let me tell you, so I can think. Last but not least is the establishing performance measures for the processes. Each of the processes and sub-processes must have performance measures. This is where the quality control part of it comes in the next phase of what we will be discussing. And that is the what needs to be measured should be measured. So for every process, we have to find out what are all the parameters, attributes which needs to be measured, and using those you control the processes. So this is, as I tell you, Dale Besterfield, my guru, I would say, for total quality management. Okay. Before we break, let me see that I come up with the quality control. So the top management role is very important. Employee involvement, training and tools and techniques are important. Earlier, we were in the quality control kind of a system. We were only dealing with the tools and techniques, but now we have understood that the people are very important. Okay, quality can be and must and manage. Everyone as a customer and a supplier and is a supplier. Processes, not people, are the problem. Every employee is responsible for quality. Problems must be prevented, not just fixed. Quality must be measured. Quality improvements must be continuous. It cannot be that one day you wake up and say, earlier we used to have this November as the quality month. But then that doesn't mean that only on now in the month of November you do that. The quality standard is defect-free, zero defect. Goals are based on requirements and not negotiated. Life cycle cost, not front-end cost, must be the basis of quality. Management must be involved and lead. Plan and organize for continuous improvement. Okay, I will stop here. It is 7:11. So 7:16, 5 minutes break. Okay. 5 minutes from now. Okay. 5 minutes break. Yeah.
और सुविधा सुविधा
हाँ बोलिए। हाँ बोलिए।
चाय वो पी लीजिए।
अरे हम तो चाय पीना छोड़ दिया।
नहीं ठीक है। अच्छा 5 मिनट का ब्रेक में थोड़ा रिफ्रेश हो जाएगा आदमी।
हाँ हाँ
वही चाहिए।
सपन कहाँ है?
वही सपन शायद गांव तरफ है।
ओ
वहाँ टावर वो नहीं
अच्छा।
पकड़ता, कनेक्टिविटी नहीं है उधर।
ओ
यही चीज है। तो और सब ठीक ठाक ना?
हाँ हाँ और सब ठीक ठाक। यही तो ये क्लास खत्म होने के बाद ही हॉस्पिटल जाएंगे खेलने के लिए।
अच्छा अच्छा अभी रात में?
हाँ रात में खेला, कल तो खेला था।
अच्छा तो अभी क्या चालू हो गया वहाँ खेलना?
हाँ चालू हो गया, कल से चालू हो गया।
कितना बजे से चालू होता है?
8 बजे से।
8 बजे से?
हाँ
8 बजे से लेके कितना बजे तक?
वही 9 साढ़े 9 बजे तक।
ओ तो 1-1.5 घंटा पार हो जाता होगा तुरंत।
हाँ हाँ हाँ
हाँ अच्छी है, थोड़ा सा फिजिकल फिटनेस। लेकिन ठंडा में भी जाने का भी इच्छा नहीं करता होगा।
नहीं
नहीं करता होगा, लेकिन अब सर का आदेश है तो जानी पड़ेगा।
हाँ 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 एकदम।
तो अभी का अपना घर ही में है?
हाँ हम घर में हैं।
अच्छा अच्छा अच्छा। नहीं ठीक है, बढ़िया है। तो मोही बोले कि
काल से तो इधर ही ड्यूटी है।
कहाँ पर? अच्छा यहीं पर, कहाँ, किस
हाँ
जगह पर?
हाँ, अरे अरे आयुष्मान में वो दीपेंद्र तो नहीं रहेगा ना।
ओहो, कितना दिन नहीं रहेगा?
वो वो एक हफ्ता नहीं रहेगा, वो गांव गया है, उसका साला का शादी है।
ओहो, अच्छा अच्छा अच्छा। नहीं ठीक है, तो वो रहना जरूरी है फिर तो। और
हाँ
अभी सर कहीं जा नहीं रहे ना?
नहीं नहीं।
अच्छा अच्छा।
हम्म।
मेरा भी नेक्स्ट वीक में देखिए छुट्टी छुट्टी लेना होगा। हाँ, घर
ठीक है।
में फंक्शन वगैरह है, उसी लिए।
अच्छा अच्छा।
वही सब
हम वो
चीज।
मार्च में जाएंगे, अभी नहीं।
अच्छा अच्छा। हाँ नहीं नहीं ठीक है। और सब बोलिए, ठीक है ना?
हाँ हाँ सब ठीक है। चाय फाय पी लिया आप?
अब चाय वही, मतलब कि चाय क्या, थोड़ा सा आ रहा, थोड़ा सा पीछे से लेके,
ठीक है।
है ना?
हाँ ठीक है, ले लीजिए ले लीजिए।
अपन रहता तो और अच्छा रहता।
हाँ हाँ हाँ।
हाँ नहीं,
हाँ
सर लेकिन अच्छा क्लास पढ़ा ले रहा,
हाँ हाँ हाँ
है ना? बढ़िया है, नहीं ठीक है। दो
हाँ
2 मिनट हम फिर आते हैं ना।
हाँ हाँ ठीक।
ओके।
ओके।
Shall we start? Yes. Yeah, I'll continue. Subir, you can
हाँ
mute. Yeah.
ओके।
Yeah.
यस सर।
Yeah. Yes, Shashi. Yeah, you
Okay.
can mute.
ओके सर।
Yeah. Shivam, yes. So quality management has gone through various phases, as we saw earlier. The cycle which we talked about, the Deming cycle or the Schubert cycle, there are two people who use this extensively. Plan, do, check, act is the cycle. The action of doing is where the direct employees which are performing tasks. Most of you, whether it is Shivam or Subir or Shashi, you are in the place where, of course, everybody plans. Okay, there is nothing like planning is only done by the top management. In the basic principles of management, we say that even when you're doing your daily tasks, there is an element of planning. When you're designing a process to do, you're doing a planning. Planning happens every day, even if we are at home. When you get up in the morning, you plan, at least if not consciously, subconsciously, you plan your day. Correct. So planning is an activity which happens as long as there is an intelligent human being. there. The doing part of it in most cases is done by people who are performing the task. And that is where the management of quality comes in. What is important in the Deming cycle is that once the job is done, it needs to be checked whether it is done properly. In the earlier quality control era, that job was being done by somebody else who used to be called an inspector. But if the person doing the job were to inspect and ensure that he has done it perfectly to his not only his satisfaction, but the satisfaction of the next person to which the job gets into, which is what we call as the internal customer. Then, and everybody does it from the beginning to end, then you achieve perfect quality in whatever you do. So every simple process has a plan, do, check, and then depending upon the check, suppose the machine needs certain adjustments, you need to add some material or remove some more material, right? Or whatever, be the process, check once more, give it a little time, more time, right? Increase the voltage. There can be many things which you need to do to ensure that the output is correct. That is what happens when you check what you have done. Just like at home, when you prepare some food, you correct, you feel, taste. Today, in fact, I had ordered for food from somebody and they have forgotten to put salt in the curry. You can imagine what it is. It was looking very good, appealing, everything. But probably in a hurry, the person has forgotten to put salt. The least thing a person should do is to taste it, right? Whether it is right, whether it is correct. So plan, do, check. And then based on the checking, suppose in this case, the salt is not there, add the right amount of salt, then check again whether it is a correct amount, and then do. The process of designing this can be done by a specialist, but not necessarily. You can yourself be the specialist also. But in the earlier era, it used to happen that the specialist or the management which controls all problem solving derived from the specialist. But in the new TQM principle, it is you who do the whole thing. That is what is important. So in the TQM era, the management provides the resources of raw material, equipment, and training, and you do the thing. One of the basic principles of management, in any management, that is even at your level of management or from the top management onwards, it is your job, primary duty, job to ensure that you provide the right resources to the people working under you at the right time, at the right quantity, of the right quality. Why I'm saying this is most of the time you feel that it is somebody else's job, because if a person does not have the right resources, whether it is an equipment or it could be even some seating arrangement, it could be the light, it could be anything for that matter. If you provide all the resources required for the person working under you to do the job, he will be only more than willing or more than glad to do it right. Most of the time, if you don't do that and something is missing, they tend to make do with what they have and do a shoddy job. Now, who is to blame in this kind of a situation? It is the person who is managing that process or managing the people who are doing those processes. I think you understood, Subir. What I'm saying is, since you are in the operations, right? Whoever are your internal customers, whoever are your internal customers, you have to ensure that they are provided with all the facilities, materials, equipment, working conditions, the consumables, you can name anything, all the resources, the lighting, whatever, place of work, and then tell them exactly how to do about it. That is where the training portion of it comes. Most of the time, we presume that the person knows what it is that they are doing. I will go to the extent of saying that I will write a process chart for that person, go through with him, right from it is like, cleaning the workplace to arranging the various materials for work, doing the work in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps, checking the work, and what happens when the work is not done properly, and then finally handing over that process to the next person. If this is fully clearly done and understood by everybody, things work very smoothly. So in the TQM era, the PDCA is done by you and you alone, not passed on to anybody else. And once this becomes a habit, then the employees working under you also will start doing the same thing and will not expect somebody else to do it. Right? So this is the most important factor in ensuring TQM. Quality management. So from this is something which you need to remove. The management as a filter who controls, and the people working constantly keep looking at the management. It should not be the case. Management should work as an enabler. I will only provide you with resources. You come to me only when there is those kind of problems, not asking me what to do. Right? If there is a problem, our tendency is to immediately go to the next, the senior management, and then ask, this has gone wrong, what do I do? Once in a TQM situation, it should be that the problem solving should be done at the same level and not escalate to the next level. Today you use the word escalation, no? Escalation to the next level should be the minimum possible. It should be done at that level. And how you empower, give them resources to do that, helping them to do what problem solving tools you can equip them with, sit with them, make them understand, and make, and you'll be amazed at the kind of creative solutions which a person, a workman or a person working with you or working for you will sometimes come up with something, sometimes which you yourself will never have understood, because they know the problem much more seriously than what you know. Correct. Employee involvement and teamwork. Use small group improvement projects, identify the quality problem, set the scope and measure the current status, identify and improvement projects, because this is something which you should do constantly. In our day-to-day working, we forget, there are so many priorities. So you can brainstorm with your own people, what are all the things which you need, which you can improve, and then prioritize them. That is very important. It's like saying that if you tell that everything is important, then nothing is important. Suppose I say I've identified 10 places where we can do improvement, then you should say which one to take first and which one to take second, or which one can be done simultaneously. So this, you must buy the idea with the people who are working under it, and make small groups and provide them with the quality control tools to ensure that they come up with solutions. And of course, then it is an iterative process after that. Okay, I was to actually stop here, but I had taken a little more extra time. I had sent you one small 3-page write-up. Now we can unmute all of you. Subir, Sashi,
Yes.
Shivam. Yeah. I
Yes,
had sent you a quality management in healthcare because since I thought some of you are in healthcare, which I had taken from the net. Actually, I've taken from the net. It's not something which, I do know the working of hospitals because I'm involved in a couple of hospitals. This is a case. Now, we will take about 10 minutes to discuss this case before we go ahead. Have you gone through the case?
yes, sir.
Yeah. So what are the things you would like to discuss? So just a 3-page because not a, this is probably in 2008 or 2009. I mean, not very long back, but at the same time, not new. See, this typically, anyway, the Subir, can you read it better?
Yes.
Because, yeah.
Quality management in healthcare, the
Hmm.
case of South Indian Hospital.
Yeah. You can read so that we can.
Lower portion. We cannot see the topics.
Yeah.
We cannot see the topics.
No, this is the topic. No, actually, this is a problem. If you are logging in from a laptop or a desktop, it is better than working through a phone. See, the healthcare industry presents a very dynamic and uncertain environment in which quality issues have occupied a central position. As healthcare organizations are becoming more and more complex, old models of quality assurance relying on provider-based preset standards are insufficient to solving quality problems. Concepts of total quality management and continuous quality improvement have taken a central role in healthcare quality management. By adopting the concepts of TQM or CQI, a healthcare institution can move away from the inspection-oriented quality improvement system to one that orients itself to a systematic. This reminds me, long back I had met one lady, and in fact, she had a very uncanny resemblance to that Margaret Thatcher. Have you heard? Have you heard of this lady called Margaret Thatcher, who was the Iron Lady? She was a Prime Minister of United Kingdom.
Yes, yes.
Indian, from Indian point of view, we can say Indira Gandhi. That stern-looking person. And she used to very proudly say, this I had met her almost 20 years back in some webinar, which, sorry, that time not a webinar, it was one of the seminars or workshops. And she used to very proudly say that I am the COO of, at that time, one of the, I think, some hospital at that time, one of the corporate hospitals. And she has got training from UK also. She has handled some hospitals in UK. When I asked her, what is your role? She used to say that I have to go walk around everywhere, see everything is all right. And, see, it becomes that if you don't trust your employees, if you don't ensure that there are systems and qualities and checks and counter checks in place, then you will spend your whole day in trying to find fault with what is not wrong, what is not right. See, you need to have that ability as a manager, right? But then if that is your only ability, then and not enable people to do things right and train them to do right, set up processes, you'll be only doing this kind of a firefighting. So the that was one Mrs. Shankaran, if I remember the name of that lady correctly. So that should not be the role. In fact, the role of a manager should be one of a facilitator, a person whom the others can approach easily, and that person should be able to provide the required resources, whether it is materials or sometimes manpower, sometimes or equipment, and help the person to solve those problems themselves. So it is an organizational culture that needs to undergo. You can definitely do it even in your own department. Sometimes even if the management is not, top management is not doing it effectively, you can at least do it in your own department to a limited extent. Through a rollout plan involving customer focus, as we say, again, we come to that, key process monitoring, data-driven tools and techniques, and team empowerment. All these we have talked. In order to determine on organization's level of quality management and continuous improvement, many have used Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award. What is this thing? Have you tried to find out? MB and QA. Okay, now without wasting time, I'll tell you that how do you determine that a particular organization is a TQM organization? Because there is no specific way of saying that, So many of these quality awards, like starting from Deming Prize, which was there, we talked about the Deming Prize. The Americans came up with this came by an act of their own parliament or the Senate, that they will institute annually a Malcolm Baldrige, because the person concerned at that time that is the name of the person, National Quality Award, under various categories. Now, there is an European Foundation for Quality. So each of the countries themselves have different methods of doing that. In India, the Confederation of Indian Industries, if you know CII, if you heard of, adopted the European Foundation for Quality Management, called the Efqm model, for assessing the quality level of an organization. That starts from leadership, it starts from strategy, and goes through many aspects of the entire organization. Basically divided into two parts. One is called the enablers, and the second part, which is the results. You see, one thing is very clear: unless you enable the correct environment or providing the tools, facilities to your employees, you cannot expect results. In fact, in the good old days, people used to say, I studied under a street lamp. Now, today you ask your son, go study under the street lamp, he'll say, correct.
Yes, yes.
It's not done. It was, see. So the conditions today are that he will minimum need a smartphone or a laptop, to even to study. Correct. So the providing resources is the management's job. Ensuring processes are established is also the job of the management or the middle management. And the way you do it by the lower management is by the training and the checks which happen at each level. The sum total of all this is what establishes the quality of the organization and its ability to provide products and services. This whole thing is graded. In fact, most of these award systems have 1,000 points divided into various, 8 different headings, and then many subheadings. It is like a usual point system. I have myself been an assessor for CII Efqm model. And incidentally, Subir, I have been in the team of 6 assessors assessing the Delhi, what is that, the Gangaram Hospital. If you heard of the Gangaram Hospital?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, one of the largest hospital. I was there for 1 full week from morning to night, assessing the quality systems of that particular hospital. And they won the award, incidentally. So you can imagine the level to which, in fact, it was around the same time, a week after our great cricketer Nawab Patodi, who expired. He was in that hospital during his final days. It was at that time. Meaning I'm not able to recollect the exact year. It could be 4, 5 or something like that, 2004, 2005. So even hospitals, of course, they all go through it only to that up. This and up by application, the CII Efqm award for corporate, that is quality excellence, which takes into account all these factors. So this is that MBQA. This is an American model, because we do not follow MBQA. I do not know why these people who have written this paper are talking about MBQA. That shows that they themselves are not very clear. In India, it is the CII Efqm model, which has been there from a very long time, instituted by the CII Institute of Quality, which is based in Bangalore. Okay. So quality initiatives in Indian hospitals, as hospitals in India are not only growing in number and size, complexity and types of services provided, there is an ever-growing need for professional management of hospitals. A number of private and corporate hospitals are constantly innovating and improving the technical, clinical, and service aspects like never before in order to provide world-class quality. In the absence of an accrediting body for hospitals, leaders in the industry are looking at different approaches like accreditation from organizations abroad and hospitals grading by commercial organizations in India to improve quality and attract. See, you have some mandatory certifications which you need to do, like your calibration of your equipment. I'm sure. What is that called as? See, hospitals use various equipments and they have to be calibrated, correct?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. What is that certification?
Calibration means machine are okay.
Huh?
It is giving guarantee that the machine is okay.
Yeah, I know, but who does that certification?
Oh, certification done by outsource agency.
Yeah, which is that?
Elbowman something, Elbowman or Aloe Vera agency is there.
Yeah, there are many agencies. There are private agencies, government agencies. You have to get mandatorily certain certification.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So those certifications are must. ISO 9000 is also a certification which only talks about systems and services. That is what you say, what you're doing, and then do what you say and, say what you do. Whereas certifications like this calibration and other things are must, because all equipments must be working to the way it is calibrated to work to. Then comes the quality systems. There is no single yardstick for quality systems, and that is why this MBNQA and CII Exim comes into the picture. So enlightened managements use these agencies to get themselves evaluated or rather audited to ensure that they are at a certain level of quality. For your information, this 1000 marks, see, we are all used to 90, 95%, 99% marks, in examinations.
Yes, yes.
The highest marks which some of the very top agencies get has not even crossed 800 out of 1000. Can you understand? See, not even 80% has, even the topmost organizations get. That means there are so many gaps from what the organization is expected to do and what it actually does in practice. But even 450 out of 1,000 is supposed to be very good. So you can imagine the level of standards which are needed to be put in this kind of certification. Okay, then you have, anyway, are there any specific questions with respect to this paper before we proceed? I just wanted to tell you about that. Results are even the last thing. We are not, the results will automatically come, provided you enable the processes and ensure that the processes are taking place properly. So there is the least emphasis on results, more on enablers in measuring quality and ensuring to check whether the quality systems are in place. Okay. Anyway, we'll go back to what do I?
In our hospital,
Yeah.
follow,
Yeah,
in
tell me,
our,
Sashi. Yeah.
in our hospital, we follow NABH guidelines.
No. NABH is again National Association for what is that?
Healthcare and
Healthcare, but that is a required standards. NABH.
yes.
Yeah, NABH is minimum required. See, it is like saying that, for you to be a doctor, you must do MBBS. Correct.
Yes.
But then that MBBS does not mean that you are a good doctor.
Yes.
Correct. That is minimum requirement. See, we are talking about excellence. See, the difference between is good, better, best, excellent.
Yes.
We are talking about excellence. That is what is quality management. Okay, now we come to the second part, which is the measurement tools. We saw that in the trilogy. Where is that? Okay. Yeah. In the trilogy, we saw that top management is one thing, processes are the second one, and the third corner of the trilogy is the tools and techniques. See, unless you use tools and techniques, you cannot improve. Correct. You need the right tool for doing the right job. This is also very important. There are, as I told you right in the beginning, there are what we used to call as a 7 QC tools or quality control tools, and there are 7 management tools. Of course, there can be a little more, but then usually it is called 7 because that's a number which we use. Now, these tools are divided into identifying specific improvement opportunities, analyzing problems and their root causes, operational planning for building quality into products and services, and strategic planning. These are the avenues for which you will need tools to use to solve that specific problem. For highlighting problems, we use what is called as a control charts. There are various types of control charts, but the most popular among them is called the R-bar X charts. Maybe Shivam would know whether you are using any control charts in your operation process?
Flow charts are there.
No. Flow chart is only describing a process.
Process.
In a process, whether the process is under control,
No, sir.
you see in your process when you go next into your thing in any one of the. I have personally used the control charts, so I know. See, basically, it is the X bar R charts. Sorry, I said R bar X. X bar R charts. X is a mean. R is a range. Okay, it's very simple. Every process, every variable in the process, every attribute in the process has variations due to natural reasons and attributable reasons. Natural reasons can be due to temperature, due to many factors, because even if you see a normal electricity flow, it will not be steady. If you put a very sensitive meter, you'll find that the voltages keep fluctuating.
Yes.
Frequencies keep changing. The eye may not be able to perceive, but then that is happening. Some of the equipment, some of the processes may be very sensitive to this. So when there is a change due to natural causes, there can be a change in the end result of that particular process. Other thing is due to normal wear and tear. Suppose there is two pins are hitting a particular object continuously. If the plunger can get a little blunt after some things, there can be a change in the setting of that particular machine due to the constant wear and tear. How do you know that that is not affecting that particular process? So what we do in very simply here, we do use what is called as a sampling techniques, simple sampling techniques. And usually you take samples of continuous samples of, let us say, 5 samples, measure the particular dimension or a reading or a temperature, or, there are many attributes which can for that particular process, and plot them in a, put it on a graph sheet and plot it as an X bar R charts. And there are very simple calculations which will tell you whether the process is under control. When your process is under control, that means that these small variations is not affecting the product, number one. The variations could be from the raw material itself also, or the raw material in the sense, the material which is used for that particular process could also create that. Once you identify that there is a problem, so this is only used only to highlight there is a problem. It cannot tell you where the problem is coming from. Very, very extensively used in, I've seen this used, even for a single process, like in PCB manufacturing, one of the units which I visited. One process has got more than 12 parameters which are under check all the time using these X bar R charts. Now, that only will tell you that this particular parameter is going astray, and then immediately the operator knows that something is going wrong to start with, and then probably he will use a fishbone diagram or any other tools and techniques, or by his own experience saying that if this happened, then this is it is due to this adjustment is need to be done, or this has to be changed. So you don't allow it to go bad, the product to go bad, but ensure that by the time it is going a little out of control, you are able to catch it. Just like, see, the best quality control is in your house is your own mother, right? If you know, she knows that if something you are doing is not right, she'll be able to perceive that something is right, something is wrong. And she will keep observing and then ask, what exactly is the problem with you? It is the sensitivity of the process, observing the process, that will tell you whether there is a problem in the first place. So the first one is highlighting the problem, and usually control charts are the best way to know how to control, how to determine whether there is a problem. Identifying specific improvement opportunities. For this, there are many of this: histograms, check sheets, Pareto analysis, scatter diagrams, graphs. Histogram is nothing but if you've seen the frequency of occurrence of certain things when it happens, when you plot them on a XY axis. Pareto diagram, Pareto is nothing but it's something what we call as the 80-20 rule. वो अभी आपका स्टेट में योगी जी ने बोला कि some 80-20 problem, right? For something, but what he meant was this Pareto. Basically, he doesn't say that not by way of this type of people or that type of people. Things. The vital few is the operating word on this. The problem happens from the vital few. Which is that vital few? If you plot in a graph and then order them or sort them on the basis of what creates the maximum effect of problem, then you get what is called as a Pareto diagram. Actually, Alfred Pareto came up with this particular concept when he says that 20% of the people in his country, he was an Italian, said have 80% of the wealth. Of course, in India, it may be a lot more, 10% of the people having 90% of the wealth, but it is still called as a 80-20 rule. It's called a 80-20 rule or a Pareto rule or Pareto. This is used to identify the few problems which will have maximum effect. And once you identify, then you do a cause and effect diagram and then try to find a solution to address those problems. Scatter diagram is also the thing. It's a statistical tool. When you plot what happens when the temperature changes here or that, and then it could be with respect to time. What is the trend which is happening? What is the mean and then the standard deviation of the parameter? So all this is to identify the improvement opportunities for that particular problem. Analyzing problems, we talked about this cause and effect. It's a most effective tool for determining any problem and used very extensively. You should also try and use it in your own workplace. It's very simple. Just Google search today how to draw a cause and effect diagram. There are even no, of course, it's a pen and paper is the best way to do this. Correspondingly, the management tools, the affinity diagram. Affinity is like cause and effect again. What has an affinity to what? In fact, in this, I am reminded of the former president of France, Francois Mitterrand. I mean, of course, a few years back, he was talking to our Dalai Lama, the spiritual head of the Buddhist spiritual head. he was asking that whatever problems are happening in this country right now at that time, what is it due to? See, many times the problems which you face today are not caused by the situations which are arising immediately. Most of its roots have issues which related maybe 100 years back or even 200 years back, 500 years back. In the case of French, if you remember, there was a French Revolution where the 1700s, where the king and queens were thrown out, they were beheaded. They used a guillotine to, kill those royalties, and then the bourgeois movement came in France during that period. France is essentially a socialist country. Till after that it became. So when he was asked that question, he said, I do not know, but it could be due to the problems what we are seeing today. Maybe started from the revolution, which is some 300 years before. A very good point of discussion will be like today, what are our current problems? Is it due to the, suppose we have to say, was it from the British rule, or was it from the Mughal era, or was it due to the Sangam period? That will be an interesting discussion. Now, that is what of course, that is in the large scale what we are talking about, but otherwise, affinity diagrams is due to various processes within the management. And similarly, there is a relationship diagram that this is related to this. So you change this, this will change, and to what extent it will change, all that. So operational planning for building quality into products and services can be mostly they're all management rules, T diagram, matrix diagram, analysis, matrix data analysis, process decision, program chart. That's a very commonly used process decision program chart. Arrow diagram. Arrow diagram is again something similar to cause and effect. And then Pokayoke. Pokayoke, which we talked about, the foolproofing, rather. It's also called foolproofing or Pokayoke. Strategic planning, quality function deployment, and quality costing. Quality function deployment is used mostly in design. It's also called the house of quality. Very extensively used now in most design areas. That is why you find that unlike the earlier bulky materials and bulky equipment what you had, today you have many of them, including cars, are all they all use QFD for their design. Effective utilization of all the things which a customer looks for. See, this is what like an histogram looks like. Categories of problems, number of occurrences, how many times, and if the leakage, missing, fouling, reworks, poor routing, loose. In case of a hospital, you can use the parameters, the faults which occur, and how many times it has occurred during this week. That's a simple histogram, right? Because it is always good to talk with data. If you tell your top management saying that, no, sir, this is regularly occurring, this person is at fault, that's the last thing you do as a manager. You should be able to say, these are all the problems. These problems occurred this many times during this week, this month. And then, which are the problems which occur more often than the others? Then that needs to be prioritized and looked into. Pareto diagram, as I said, vital few and what are the, see the previous one, if you have seen, the same thing is now put into a Pareto. That means in the order of the occurrence. And then you know that this is occurring more often than these. The cause and effect diagram. effect is what is the head of the thing. And you go backward like this, or of course you could put the quality on the other side also. There's no success acting. Of course, here he has just used quality as a thing, but it could be a specific problem that there, like let us say, ये जो चीज ये अटक जाता है, kind of thing. You say that could be a problem. Something is getting stuck, right? Suppose that is your problem. So let us put that something is getting stuck here in this as quality. Then you have a main arrow, and it is divided into, could be due to some materials, it could be due to some methods, it could be due to some equipment, it could be due to the person concerned who is operating. These are all could be causes. Of course, you can add other things like that. It could be due to, let us say, failure of air conditioner, like in medical equipment. No, some machines have to be kept under AC. Suppose there is let us say there is a high humidity, a lot of dust which happens. It could be some chemicals falling on that equipment. There could be many things. So there is an effect, and then what are all the possible causes? You can use cause and effect diagram using what is called as a using a post-it pad, kind of thing, and then arranging it accordingly. These are all tools and techniques to use cause and effect diagram. They say action cards. We also use that post-it pad, 3M ka wo post-it pad aata hai na. Just keep writing what could be the possible and put them in those arrows where you see, in those arrows. Matrix diagram is like, if you see, less important. These are all the parameters, and then where do they plot within that graph? It's a graphical method. Poka-yoke example. See, this is a particular machine in which a pair of sensors for fail-proofing through drilling. That unless it goes, of course, we all use those kind of techniques. So that one, it does not do a wrong job. And mostly Poka-yoke is also done for safety of manpower and safety of equipment, right? Just like I told you in the beginning, I talked about the USB port. You cannot put it the other way around, right? Earlier, we used to have in our mobile phones that B-type adapter. Now, B-type adapter is more or less gone. We have now the C-type adapter. The C-type adapter, you can put it either way. It doesn't matter. That is Poka-yoke. Earlier, you had to put it only in one direction, right? So, in fact, Europe has made it compulsory for even Apple devices to use the C-type adapter. Why you should have two different types? Everything should be a common one to use. So accidentally, you won't try to put in one into the other, right? So quality function deployment, as I said, it's also called the house of quality. It is why house, because if you see the final diagram, when we go a little later, it will look like our house, that there is a sloping roof, there is a header, and then the body, and then the pillars, all that. So it looks like a house, and so it is also called as a house of quality. In the 4 houses of quality, you start with the customer needs. And what are all the design attributes which you need for designing a product? This is, as I told you, used mostly in design. So links customer needs to design attributes, links design attributes to the firm, the actions which the firm has to take. And that in turn links to the actions to implementation of these decisions, which again leads to implementation to process plan, because ultimately it is the process chart, process plans, which finally does the job. So from the customer needs and customer expectations, putting that into the product attributes, using that to design, using that to implement, and using that for process. That is the 4 stages in QFD or House of Quality. Phase 1 is quality function, define specifications, quality function deployment, the various parts which go into that particular product, or process. This can be used for processes also. In manufacturing, it is very extensively being used. In fact, I have seen how a battle tank is designed, or rather, sorry, a dumper truck is designed by Bharat Earth Movers. In fact, a design engineer, senior design engineer or design manager had shown us how a particular type of dumper truck was designed using QFD. And it is being done even for today cars, whatever is done being manufactured, they all use QFD for their design and processes. Phase 3 is process planning and then production planning. This is how the QFD or House of Quality looks like. Because this correlation matrix is correlation between customer requirements and your design attributes, design parameters. That's what it looks at. There is a what relationship and how, which forms the relationship matrix, and customer competitive assessment that is added on, because any product you do, there is a competitor. What are all the plus and minus points of the competitor is taken to evaluate how effective you are in your new design. And these are the House of Quality is a basic matrix structure to define the voice of the customer. These also shorten it, calling the VOC or voice of customer. This is the basic matrix from where it is built up. One by one, it is built up. See, that one takes up into this. And we use the strong relationship and weak relationships and conflicts to know whether what conflicts or what is strong relationship, and use that for the design. Very effective tool. Let me tell you, this is for design. Quality costing. Yeah, we saw that there were 2 of them, QFD and quality costing. The concept of quality costing arises from the fact that, one, how much does it cost to implement quality? Number 2, what are all the costs of not maintaining quality? There are 2. We talked about the extreme of our Taguchi's loss function. You need not go up to that, but at least for the in your own management, in your own realization of the product, and sometimes losing the customer, losing, many times, even that if you get a defective product, you don't tend to buy from that particular manufacturer, or you don't try to buy that product. So that is a loss to the company. But maintaining quality also has costs. So you have 2 arms. One is the control costs, that is to inbuilt into that, and failure costs. If something fails, that has a cost. Cost of, again, there is a cost of rework, and there is a cost of losing customer again. You see, then you have control costs, prevention, like in the process control which we did, and appraisal cost, that is after that particular process is done. How, that is the inspection part of it, prevention, inspection. So in failure costs, you have internal failure costs of what has happened in between, inside your process or inside the factory, inside your hospital, and external is with the customer. So this, in short, of course, there is a whole lot of subjects, things relating to this, but this in short is the effect of quality costs. We talked earlier when we talked about the South Indian hospital, we talked about the MBNQ. These are all the agencies for quality awards. I told you about the Deming Prize, which was there. This is by the Japanese Union for Scientists and Engineers. It's called GUSC, JUICE. This has no geographical restriction. Anybody in the world can apply for this award. More than one may be selected for the prize. MBNQ, which is this is by the USA, but is applicable only for US corporations. Only one winner is selected for each category in this. EFQM, or European Foundation for Quality Management, open only for European companies. CII Exim, which I said, for Indian, Confederation of Indian Industry, any company in India can apply. One winner in each category, but then they give a lot of so-called consolation prizes, that is, you are good, but you can do better, that kind of thing. Then Rajiv Gandhi Quality Award is given by BIS. It is not very popular, let me tell you. Meaning, I know that, in fact, I don't hear of it much. This is done by Bureau of Indian Standards, and a government controlled in India really doesn't work very well. But CII Exim in India is one of the most popular awards, which the big corporates. I'm sure Narayan hospitals must have got some award. Please check up Subir and tell me next time. CII Exim award by Narayan. I'm sure they would have got. Then comes the well-known quality certification. ISO 9000 series is a basic system certification. Currently, it is ISO 9000-2018. It has undergone many changes from 1994 onwards. 97, 2000, 2008, 2015, 2018. These are all the changes which have happened in the ISO 9000. ISO 14000 series is an environmental issues. In fact, this healthcare industry is very much would be involved in it. All polluting industries, which has water, air, noise pollutions, that will come under that. Then there is a telecom sector series. And this is another very important. This is a OSAS, which is occupational hazards, safety and certification. This is very important. Occupational hazards. An association of national thing deals with occupational health and safety management. Very, very important for hospitals. In fact, as I told you, I'm one of the trustees in a hospital which we have been having. Small hospital, very small hospital. We had our COVID care patients also. We deal with HIV mainly, HIV, both outpatient, prevention, and hospice. Last week, 2 of my doctors, couple of nurses, paramedics, pathologists, everybody tested positive.
Yes.
So, yeah, I'm sure, Sashi, you must be also in this thing. This time the spread is very, very fast. But one main advantage is it is within 2 days, 3 days, everybody is becoming okay. In fact, my CMO called me on Saturday evening saying that he is tested positive. But Monday morning he is at work.
It is not.
Huh?
It is not too much effective.
Yeah, apparently it is affecting only upper respiratory now, this stage. So upper respiratory, you can make do with, as I was telling, there are molnupiravir or something, one drug is there. For not severe cases, they give that, or remdesivir is IV injection that they give for with more comorbidities and a little higher, CRP levels, we are checking CRP levels, D-dimer, and liver function. 3 major, because since you're a hospital, you will understand, right? And based on that, we are administering. either of them is a 5-day program now. It is people are getting okay in 2 to 3 days time. Yeah, but then what I'm saying is, when it comes to occupational health and safety, last week none of them are wearing the what do you call that gown, but now this week almost all staff is compulsorily asked to wear PPE kits. About 10 days back I didn't see any of them wearing. They're merrily going around. Now when they saw me, but they should have made it as a standard. Till
Yes.
yeah, but then what happens is they themselves get over complacent because it's very difficult to work with it.
Yes, yes.
But of course, this weather condition is very good. So PPE in summer, of course, it makes a lot of difference. Yeah.
Yes, yes. In
So
entire can do.
yeah. So the Deming Prize, even in India, Sundaram Clayton brakes division has got it in 1998. Sundaram again brake linings 2001, TVS motor, all that. Of course, there are many others who have got. See, as I told you, the excellence model works on these enablers and results. Enablers are leadership, strategy, people, partnership and resources, and processes. So this whole thing is enablers. The results is only this much. Customer results, people results, society results, and KPIs, key performance results under the environment of innovation and learning. This whole thing is about 1,000 points. If you add up, you will get 1,000 points. 200, 90, 60, 150, 140, 90, 80, 90, 100. So that is how it is marked. Service quality, there is this particular cervical model. Elements of a quality systems, there is a quality assurance system, top management committed to quality, understand customer needs, translate them into meaningful measures, mechanisms to identify quality problems, use tools and techniques for root cause. They also use root cause analysis, RCA. A lot of words are used in quality, but they're all interlinked. Employee involvement and continuous focus on quality, methods for preventing and recurrence of problems, documentation. This is very important for both for improvement and innovation, quality certification and benchmarks. This totally completes the quality. So we come to the end of the chapter. Today we are overshot by 10 minutes, but it's okay. I'll just take in 5 minutes. Chapter highlights the resounding success of the Japanese manufacturing firms have invariably been linked to excellent practices in quality management. Last 40 years, I would say, much of the progress that organizations made in quality and productivity management is attributed to the gurus like Deming, Edward Deming, Joseph Duran, Philip Crosby, Taguchi, Shingo, and Ishikawa. A good quality management system must enable a manager to understand the qualitative attributes that influence a customer and have a method of translating them into ambiguous, quantifiable parameter. See, many times you can formulate your own small systems. I said that don't wait for doing it right. Doing it is more important. That's my personal thing. When you say that, you can do or use your own small techniques and try to relate it to what is already there. That itself works better in many cases. Then a total quality management program components are the top management, employee involvement, and training and skill development, and investment to robot system, tools and techniques, highlighting problems, improvement opportunities, analyze and identify root causes, operation and strategic planning for building quality into products. This is that QFD. This is that fishbone diagram, Pareto highlighting problems, XBAR charts. Alternative certification products and award mechanisms are available to recognize excellent quality management systems in organizations. The measure of quality is this kind of things, an external audit by somebody who tells you where you stand and what are all your weaknesses and where all you need to improve. Okay, so thank you very much for today's sessions. I will share as usual the PPT. Okay.
Yes, sir.
But it's also available in YouTube. Yeah, you say. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Any questions?
Yes,
I have condensed such a huge topic into 2 hours. Right. At least you will have an idea of what is there and what can be done. Okay.
correct.
Right, Subir and Sashi and Shivam.
Yes.
Very coincidentally,
sir.
all of you are S and I am also S, Sukumar, and also Swapan. Very coincidentally, all of us are starting from S.
And now, how are you feeling, sir? Today, your health is,
Huh?
I think, I have listened from somebody, you were not well that time.
Yeah. Last week I had COVID. I was COVID positive. So I couldn't sit for 2 hours like this. I couldn't. That's
Now you are feeling well.
Yeah, I'm feeling okay. Perfectly all right. Yeah.
And it's okay.
Okay. Right. See you. Thank you.
Bye, sir.
Have a great week ahead. Meet next Sunday. Yeah.